Welcome to the Beyond the Vines podcast, where I interview local business owners in Sonoma County to highlight small business and grow our community. I'm your host, Amy Ehlers, a mom, realtor, and Sonoma County native, and I'm excited to connect you to some amazing people in this beautiful area that we call home. Welcome back to the Beyond the Vines podcast. Thank you again for tuning in and listening. We've had some really fun episodes this summer, so I'm really excited to have you here. Today, I'm here with Haley and Justin Brown Woods. I'm going to tell you a little bit about them in case you aren't already a Toastie and you don't already follow them, because I think they have quite a following. So Haley and Justin Brown Woods are a married millennial couple that began their debt-free journey in the fall of 2019. After blowing through a $600,000 lawsuit payout and racking up over $220,000 worth of debt in 3.5 years, Haley and Justin got serious about changing the narrative they had created for their lives. Within 18 months, they had paid off over $132,000 of debt and restarted their wealth journey. During this period, they began their podcast, Price of Avocado Toast. Their focus has been on having open and honest money conversations with others to help remove the stigmas and shame around finances. The hope is that these conversations enlighten the younger versions of themselves and save them from the pitfalls Haley and Justin fell into. In 2021, Haley began the financial coaching branch of Price of Avocado Toast. She brought Justin onto the team in 2023, and together they have helped clients tackle over $1 million of debt. Now their family is working towards generational wealth building and a future of outrageous generosity, which I love. Thank you so much for coming today. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're excited to be here.
It's so exciting. It's so funny when you both speak. I picture your podcast. Like, it's funny to hear your voices in the same room as me because I do listen.
Oh, thanks.
So I'm like, oh, it's not my phone.
That's awesome.
You're real.
Yeah, we're real humans.
So awesome. So can you tell me a little bit, was there a specific moment or experience that really sparked your interest in helping others with their finances?
I think it just stems from our own story. How when you were reading our bio, we had a lot of money, we blew the money, and before all of that, like, we didn't really know how to manage money because we grew up in single mom household. So we were just going along doing what we thought we were doing, just like most people, figuring it out as we go. But then we got married and found ourselves in all of this debt, and we realized that this wasn't really, like, working for us, and we needed to fix the situation. Why don't you tell the muffin story? You're good at this.
The muffin story?
Yeah, sure. We have like our famous kind of like pumpkin muffin story, which really like kickstarted our journey for like working towards debt freedom. So we were both teachers at the time, and Haley was 8 months pregnant, and she beat me home and had stopped by Costco on the way home. And when I got back to the house, she was like, hey, there's these really good muffins that I grabbed in, the kitchen. They're like the seasonal pumpkin ones. And rather than be excited that she bought these muffins, we had an argument about not having money in our bank account to be spending, quote unquote, frivolously.
Yep.
And that was really kind of like a jolting moment for us of like, we need to get our own stuff together. And then I think through the process of just doing it ourselves and having, the heart of a teacher, both of us were former educators, we realized, hey, wait a minute, like, why can't we share our knowledge with other people as well to maybe, like you said, stop them from some of the things we had to go through?
And we had a financial coach while we were on our journey.
Oh, I love that.
So that really gave us the idea of maybe we could do something with this passion that we have. We were really into paying off our debt. It became like a personality trait. And taking that excitement and doing something with it as teachers kind of evolved because we worked with our financial coach. It planted the seed, and that's how it kind of started.
Amazing.
But the idea of like helping other people wasn't really initially what we thought we were doing. We were just focusing on our own journey. And then through sharing it and realizing that other people were really happy to hear our transparency, and they were like, whoa, actually, well, number one, I'm not stupid for also being in a lot of debt. These other people have stuff that they're working through. And now I feel seen, and I feel like I'm not just doing this in my own shadow. That made us really be like, okay, maybe we can do something with this and help other people on their journey.
I love that. And so the podcast came first, right?
Yes.
Got it. That is so cool. I love that your own experience is really what sparked this. Like, isn't that amazing to think, like, what if you hadn't gotten muffins at Costco that day?
Yeah, totally. And I think the wild part is that for us, we really did just start with this idea of like, let's be super vulnerable. Like, let's be really transparent, really authentic of like the mistakes that we've made and what we've gone through. And even if it helps one person, I know that's so cliche, but like I feel like we really did believe like if one person hears our podcast, whether it's a local person or somewhere, across the world, and it helps them or inspires them, like we would have felt really great about it.
Right.
And to see that it's become this, like it's mind blowing.
That is so cool. That is so cool. So the name of your podcast and your coaching business, Price of Avocado Toast, it's so clever. Can you kind of share the story behind that name?
Well, our podcast was born through the COVID quarantine, like the OG lockdown in April, May of 2020, back when everyone was glued to their phones, just scrolling.
Or watching Tiger King.
Yes.
Oh my God, I watched that. I forgot about that.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That's right.
Literally, that season of life. And I thought maybe let's do something with a podcast. Actually, I didn't even know much about podcasting. Right. We listened to podcasts, but I wasn't like I was thinking of doing one.
Right.
And a friend of mine sent me the link saying, hey, this mutual connection we have, she was doing this podcasting course. You should do this. I feel like this would be a good outlet for you and your husband. And I was like, maybe. And so we had this idea to start a podcast, and we went on Instagram stories and we're asking people like, hey, we're going to do this about money and millennials. And that was basically all we knew.
Right.
What should we call it? And so on my own personal Instagram, we ran polls and ran up a couple different recommendations from people, and Price of Avocado Toast was born because a few people recommended avocado toast. Someone said cost of avocado toast, and then Price of Avocado Toast was born. And fun fact, we named our daughter the same way by an Instagram poll.
I thought you were going to say avocado. I was like, I didn't know that.
Very on brand, you guys. Very on brand.
She's a write-off.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's great.
So you did a poll for her name.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so cute. I love how social media has really played such a role in your business. So.
Yeah, it really has. And it's interesting because you don't get into it, thinking like, oh, I want to be a content creator. Like I want this to be something, but it is part of what we do and part of like how we grow our business and market our business. Yeah. And so it's really interesting seeing like, how much social media has played a factor in our lives just as human beings outside of our podcast.
That's amazing. Well, and it is your target, right? Because you're a modern millennial couple. That's part of your branding. And so that's who your listeners are. That's how they're finding you.
Totally.
So.
And people consume content for these things that they might not be talking about. So people are scrolling Instagram. Some people are on YouTube watching videos. Some people are on TikTok scrolling, watching educational things or learning from other people's stories about this thing, whether it's cooking or debt payoff or gardening.
Yep.
But they might not be talking to the people in their lives about that thing.
Yes.
But they're consuming it. And so that's where I found the connection with people. They will come and slide in my DMs and just tell me all the debt they have because they're not saying this to anybody else, but they finally feel like they have a safe space and an outlet to facilitate a conversation that they didn't know that they even needed to have.
That's a lot of weight probably for you to carry when you open that DM and you're like, okay, what's our next step? Are they just looking to share it? Are they looking for coaching? Or everybody's probably so different.
It depends.
Yeah.
I love it, though.
Yeah.
I love it
Do
when
you?
people send
Okay,
us
good.
messages.
Good.
For me, that's like the ultimate trust.
Yes.
That says a lot when you're willing to... I got a message on our way over here. Someone said, hey, I don't even know if I'm allowed to ask this question. I haven't even told you.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were like, I don't even know if this is like allowed, if I'm allowed to send messages in the DMs. Ignore it if it's not. But I'm about to pay off all my credit cards, and I wanted to know, like, what's the best thing I should do next after it's paid off so I don't rack it back up. And I'm like, DMs are always open. Please send messages. I want to help you through this. Answering one question is not like a full coaching situation.
Totally.
But people need to know that they have support for those things that they're working through. Yeah. This person they might be in debt, like, up to their eyebrows.
Right.
Eyeballs.
We'll go with brows.
Whatever. But they might not be telling their friends and family that they're struggling.
Yeah.
And so they have that space to ask those questions.
I love that. That's amazing that you have that reach and and probably a lot of it does come from the podcast and because you're so active on social media, you're familiar for people. Like I was saying, like your voice, I'm like, oh, they're real people.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably why you get that reach and people trusting you is because you're so out there on your own. Yeah. Amazing. So your podcast covers a wide range of financial topics from budgeting to investing and everything in between. How do you decide what you want to feature and explore in each episode?
That's a really good question. Honestly, it kind of just comes down to like what's pulling on our hearts in the moment and maybe looking forward. For example, like in season 5, we're talking about intimacy and finances. Because we've realized over the course of like our marriage and coaching couples how much those two are connected. And so we've thought, hey, we're seeing this a lot. Let's talk about it. And that's kind of where a lot of our topics come from. It's just like our own personal experience with having conversations with coaching clients or friends and what people might need. And then beyond that, also, like, it's kind of just an opportunity for us to have cool people on and learn stuff.
Yeah.
So we do use it as a platform for our own learning. Like, what are we interested in? What do we want to know? And let's share that conversation with others because maybe somebody else is interested in it as well. And of course, we'll also do polls on social media.
Right. I was going to ask, is there a poll for that?
People say, hey, you guys should do something like this, or, have you guys considered this? And we're like, no, we haven't thought of that, but we'll put it on the list. And it usually makes its way in.
That's so awesome.
I've also found with like the stuff we're going through on a personal level, it makes a much better episode because we're not sitting there just educating on some blanket topic.
Right.
It's like, no, okay, here's some educational info, but this is how it has played in our lives as well. For example, in season 5, his mom passed away unexpectedly a couple of years ago, and we're going to be talking. We're finally at a point where we're ready to talk about the death and dying and the cost of it, and not just like funeral costs, but probate and getting a trust and wills. And there's so much complicated stuff layered there. And eventually everyone will die and our parents will die. And we have to make sure that people know this stuff before they're in a situation like we were for the last couple of years, sifting through probate, being like, we don't know what we're doing. Most people don't know what they're doing until they're in the situation. But now we can talk about it from a like personal level, and it'll still be emotional, but it's a little like we've had time. We can do it in a way that I feel like is really going to benefit people.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. If you need like a trust attorney for that episode, I have a really good one. She was on here, Kimberly and Robert Strickland. So I can send you their episode, but I'm sure she would love to chat on yours too.
Sweet.
Brilliant.
That'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. I love that you're kind of seeing from your own experiences what you can bring to everybody because, again, you're relatable. You're in a similar life phase as a lot of people. And so your experiences are pretty common.
Yeah.
So
pretty normal overall.
Yeah. Yeah, especially like the phase of life you're in with lots of kids.
Yeah.
That's definitely relatable. Yeah. So what has been your most popular episode?
You're kind of the statistics person. You get to run all the like back end stuff. I kind of just show up and smile and hang out. But I don't know. We've had some really good ones talking about like different debt payoff strategies. Again, I think those are like some of our better ones just because they're really practical. Like people listen and immediately get a takeaway, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. People love the drama. So our original episode where we're like, hey, we don't know what we're doing. I'm a little drunk on the podcast mic. We're going to tell you how we blew through $600,000 in a couple years, and no shame because it's gone. Yeah. What are you going to do? Make me feel bad? It's already bad.
Already feel bad enough,
That's kind of how things started.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I need to go back to like the beginning.
Oh, it's wow.
The audio is probably so terrible.
It's all right.
But those episodes of us transparently sharing our financial mess ups have been hugely popular.
Yeah. Yep.
We have made a couple terrible real estate investments. It's not even that they were bad investments. We've just had really bad experiences with real estate investing. Yeah. Those do well. Anything that's like a hot topic with like Dave Ramsey's a polarizing topic for a lot of people. We started following him on our journey, and millennials as a whole find him very restrictive. He's like the Gen X guy. You know, he does well for the bootstraps mentality, and that's just not how a lot of us work anymore. And we want sustainable methods. And so we transparently went on our podcast saying, hey, we're going to actually step away from Dave Ramsey, and that became a whole thing. So we've done several episodes on that, and those we're actually currently running a like summer rewind on our favorite Dave Ramsey episodes of 6 of them.
Okay, I need to listen.
And we did a 3-part cult series 2 years ago in 2022.
Oh my gosh, how funny.
Like, is Dave Ramsey a cult leader? And we had a specialist come on.
No way. How did I not
just kind of bury that? It's not even a specialist. It's like the leading cult specialist in America.
Okay.
Stop.
Yeah.
On the podcast.
Like,
oh my God.
like,
you know what my next listen is going to be like, right? As soon as you guys leave, I'm pulling it up.
Yeah, it's like, she's legit.
And then we had former Ramsey employees' families on. Like, it was the whole thing.
Yeah.
Wow. So those have done really well as well.
Yeah. I'm very intrigued right now. Okay, so it's a 6-part rewind, essentially, right now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I didn't see it pop up. I'm going to
Go
make sure I
deep.
pull it up.
The episode that released today was the part 1 of that 3-part deep dive on the cult series.
I'm ready.
I was listening the other day. I'm acting like people talking.
I was listening on my phone.
I was re-listening because our editor sent it back,
Yeah.
and I was like, these are really good.
That's so awesome.
Like, they're 2 years old, but
That's amazing.
so good.
I love that you did like a re-release too, because they are still relevant for
Totally.
sure. Yeah, that's amazing. Oh gosh, I'm totally gonna listen after. So can you share some common misconceptions about personal finance that you've encountered either through podcasting or through your coaching?
I would say one of the really big ones that actually we even fell into as a trap is that debt is bad.
Right.
Right? There's this idea that debt is bad and being out of debt is good. And the truth is debt is morally neutral, right? Like there's no self-worth or like human life value placed on debt. It's not a good or bad thing. It's just your comfort level with debt. And some people might be really comfortable having tons of real estate debt or tons of student loans because they're really proud of some school that they did, right? Others might say, hey, I never want to have consumer debt, so I don't have credit cards and I don't take out car loans.
Right.
It's a spectrum. And unfortunately, in personal finance, the way that you get followers or the way that you get, folks to kind of come along with you is by being relatively polarizing. You kind of have to stake a claim on either side. There doesn't leave a lot of nuance.
Right.
And debt is such a nuanced situation. I think that's a really big one, that people tie a lot of their value to their debt number. And it just is. And we kind of just need to put a period on that. Like, I have debt, period, or I don't, period, whatever. And we can live in that gray for a little bit.
I love that.
Yeah, debt can happen to you. You can have
Well,
situations.
that's a good point. Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
No one's saying. I've literally had this exact situation happen where a parent dies, animal has to get put down,
Yep.
you total the family car,
Yep.
and then your sibling is sick and you need to travel to another state all in 3
all in
weeks.
the same-
Like, that's just a series of unfortunate events that can catapult someone into so much debt.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean they're a bad person.
Right.
They just had a
Right.
really bad season.
Right.
One of the misconceptions I've seen is that you have to be miserable on a journey of like pursuing financial freedom. Like, you don't get to have the taste of the good life until you get there.
Right.
And that's not,
Right.
it's not all or nothing. And it's not all or nothing.
Yeah. That's a little Dave Ramsey-ish, right?
Yes.
Yes. Very much so.
That's so true. Wow, that's really interesting. And I would imagine, like, when you're first starting with a new coaching client, that's probably something you got to figure out, like, how do they actually feel about their debt or which pieces of their debt, and so that you can kind of come up with a plan.
Yeah.
Figure out what's actually bothering them about
Yeah.
it.
And that's actually an activity that Haley built that we use
Awesome.
with clients. Like, how comfortable are you with this debt? You know,
Right.
some people are like, hey, my credit card's high, but it's because I took a gap year and traveled,
Right.
East Asia with my sibling and had all of these great life experiences, and I'm okay with that debt.
Right.
Right? Others are like, actually, I was really dumb and I got the college card and,
Yeah.
didn't learn anything. And then we have to tell them, okay, well, first off, you're not dumb. You're, 19 years old and
That's
somebody
why they
told
have
you
those
you get a free
secrets set up.
t-shirt. Yeah, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's okay. And we can work through it, right? But that's always a really good activity to do with clients early on, because they really do kind of see, oh, okay, I can remove my own biases around debt and start to find out which path I want to go down and how fast do we want to accelerate it.
Right.
And then also, like, moving forward, what debts are you comfortable having? We
Yeah.
all have different risk tolerances, and we've had this conversation. We still have student loans. We have $89,000 in student loan debt.
Ooh.
We're under 90.
So it's a lot, and that's actually a big deal to be able to say that, So
When it went under 100, that was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
moving forward.
But
Yeah.
like, we've shifted, kind of how we mentioned we were following Dave Ramsey and now we're not. We kind of are very neutral to the student loan debt. It doesn't, I don't care at all anymore. It
Right.
doesn't carry that weight like it used to.
Yeah.
Eventually it's going to get paid off.
Yeah.
We will have a plan for it.
Yep.
But some people feel that same neutrality with like their mortgage. They're like, I actually don't care.
Right.
Eventually this will get paid off.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't care if I have a car loan. Here's another great example I think a lot of people will relate to. If you need to buy a new mattress and it's $2,500,
Right.
and you have the option to do 0% financing for 2
Right.
years,
Right.
and you're okay with that, and you find absolutely nothing wrong with doing a payment plan, that's still debt.
Right.
And some people have totally absolutely not, I will not finance anything, and other people are like, why would I not do that?
Yeah.
That's literally saving me money. So it really is so deeply personal, and it comes from how our parents talked about money when we were kids, your own personal experience. Maybe you were following someone like Dave Ramsey, and that person is in your head saying don't do this, this is bad, this is stupid. That holds a lot of weight with how we do things and why we do things and why we're comfortable. And sometimes in relationships, people have different opinions, and we have to find what works for the unit. Because they might not always agree on it.
That's so true. That's so hard. Excuse me. That's amazing. I think you did a podcast episode not that long ago. I know you've taken a break from it, where blended families came up for that reason, where it's two different partners, and I feel like that's a whole extra layer because it's not only two different partners, they've already got established families and established finances. That's a hard one.
Yeah, and we've coached clients like that. We've coached clients that are just their own finances, and they have a partner who maybe doesn't show up to the call because their families are separated, and so they want help with their finances, even while cohabitating with their partner that they're now married to and have blended families with. And everybody's situation is unique. Everybody's situation is different, and it's important that people have the space, I guess, within their relationships to navigate those conversations, both together and separately with a coach or with somebody else.
I love that. And it sounds like that'll kind of be touched on too in your new season that's coming out too.
Yeah.
And how it is with relationships. I love that. What are some key principles or strategies that you recommend for people? I mean, I'm sure it really goes back to what their goals are.
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest ones that we've really started to lean into is value-based budgeting.
Yeah.
We really realized that if you're able to say yes to the things that you love and no to the things that just don't serve you or bring your family value, then not only do you get to have the best things in life of the things you enjoy and the things you want to do, but you also do still get to tackle your financial goals, right? So we like to do an activity where we help people identify their values and then identify how those might show up in a budget. For example, if a family says that their value is security. Well, let's talk about what that security means. Hey, that security means that you do want to be debt free. And so we're going to allocate a little bit extra money towards debt payoff versus new clothes or versus, this travel that maybe your family just doesn't really care about travel that much, which is totally okay. We really do, I think, now help people identify those a little bit clearer than we did in the past. In the past, again, we were very much so debt freedom is the way. And now we realize, hey, why can't we have the best of both worlds, even if it takes us a little bit longer? That's the way for, I would say, sustainable finances.
That makes sense. Yeah.
We look at finance as a holistic thing.
Yeah.
Because your money bleeds into every single area of your lives in one way or another. And I think that if you just take a step back and look outside of the dollars, what's really there, that helps. And leaning into value-based spending, leaning into your goals. If you can feel good about your money, then you're not going to burn out. Then it can be sustainable. You have a short period of time where you're paying off debt, ideally. And then you have the rest of your life. So if you can feel good, that's important. Because then it's going to break the cycle. If we're talking about debt payoff, a lot of people come to us and they're in a deep, deep debt cycle where they've paid off debt and then they got back into debt, and then they consolidated credit cards onto a personal loan, and then they got back into debt again, and they're on round number 5. That's not what we want. But that comes from restrictive. If you can feel good and not restrictive, then it's not going to be a crash diet, essentially.
I was just saying, it sounds like a diet. Yeah. Very much where you can't restrict too much or you're just not going to do it.
Well, I mean, think of where a lot of the listeners for this show are here in Sonoma County. Right? We've chosen to live in one of the most expensive counties in the nation. Right? But there are values for our families that come with living in such a beautiful place. And so people say, I'm willing to pay this high mortgage or this high rent because of all of the other things my family gets from being here. And so could you move to the Midwest and pay off all your debt immediately? Maybe, right? But is there a benefit to walking outside and having roughly, 70-degree weather 2/3 of the year? That is pretty sweet where we get to live and be. And so that's a value for a lot of people, right? And so helping them understand how those values tie into their financial journey long term has been really beneficial.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I think those are really good points. So, and I like your holistic approach. What did you call it? Value-based spending?
Value-based spending and budgeting, yeah.
Great. So personal finance can be deeply personal and sometimes even emotional. How do you navigate sensitive topics or situations when dealing with finances with clients? Because I imagine that there's a lot of emotion.
It comes down to everything that led you to where you are today. Like, we have our own personal finance narratives in our brain. And it's like, what's okay with money, what's not okay, every single experience that you've been through. And when you can tap into asking questions about how you were raised, what were the conversations that you heard people saying about money. Like, if you had a parent that was constantly saying, we can't afford that, we can't afford that, we can't afford that, and now you feel like you can't afford that. That makes sense. Or now you feel like you have to overspend and overcompensate for this little girl that didn't get to have that. That makes sense. So honestly, it feels kind of like therapy when you tap into those emotional things that have led you to where you are today, because financial trauma is a thing where we go through these things. Think about all of the people in Sonoma County who lost their homes in 2017. That is extreme financial trauma.
Yeah, absolutely.
So working through like, oh, I could have anything just gone at a moment's notice goes deep into money.
Absolutely.
So the responses of the way those people like do things now, several years later, it makes sense. But we have to realize what those are and kind of do the internal work in order to make sure that we are paying attention to the emotions, because they're all valid, but they are there for a reason. And that is what creates our own personal finance story individually. And then if you're in a partnership, kind of having those conversations as well, like, how was that? Oh, the bread. Like, we have argument one time about bread.
So muffins and bread. Okay.
Yes, it's always food.
So clearly,
it could be a lot worse.
Don't bring us pastries, please.
Boy, that is a big thing in Sonoma County. Okay, tell me about the bread.
Yeah.
Do you want me to tell the story?
Sure, yeah.
It's not my proudest moment.
Wow, we all have those.
Justin made me a sandwich one day with the end piece of the bread, the butt bread.
Oh, I don't like the butt bread.
Heel. I don't really like it either. And I had just gotten off work, and he made me lunch because he's the best husband ever.
Thank you.
And he brings it to me, and I said something along the lines of like, I'm not going to eat that, or I'll go get something else. And he just turned white, went to the other room. He was so mad. And not like yelling, but just like, I can't talk to you right now. I'm so upset. And I was like, I'm thoroughly confused. I am so confused why this is a thing. We both grew up in single mom households, low income households. So we think we relate on a lot, but then we have an argument over the bread, because his situation growing up was that you didn't have the opportunity to not eat the piece of bread. And when we were able to be like, wait a minute, this has nothing, it's deeper than the bread. It's like all the other stuff. That's why your money stories are so personal, and they really do tie into emotion. The bread situation, to me, I was like, I'm so confused. I have no idea what I did wrong. I'm sure my delivery was not the best, but I didn't know in the moment what he was thinking. But we have to talk about that in order to understand ourselves. I'm sure you learned a lot about yourself that day. I learned a lot about myself and my partner. And then now we can be a lot more sensitive. And I will never decline the butt bread ever again.
So it's funny because I don't like the butt bread, but I definitely had to eat the butt bread when I was growing up. And so for me, anytime I put it in the compost, I feel like this awful pang of guilt getting rid of the butt bread. So I get it.
It's funny too, because now anytime I bring her lunch or anything, I get a text almost immediately like, thank you so much, I love you. And I'm like, all right.
Like how you took that moment and you worked through it. That's amazing. You know?
I'm like, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for all of this. It's the best sandwich I've ever
piece of bread on my sandwich you want to give me. That's amazing. That's so funny. I love that. I love how relatable that is for couples. So what are some of the common financial mistakes or pitfalls that you see some of the younger generations falling into?
I would say, honestly, the biggest one is social media and
what I was
how
thinking.
marketed to people are.
Interesting. Yeah.
Right? Like you are marketed to it's like 10,000 times a day or whatever
Absolutely.
the statistic is, right? And it's by professionals, right? And so you're expected to just have this willpower to be the best marketing teams in the world and to just, be a pro at it like they are. And that's not the case. And so with a lot of the younger generation, they're getting caught in this cycle of immediacy, right? We can get anything, whether it's that day or the next day because of Amazon Prime or whatever. And it's marketed to us as we're sitting on our couch. We don't even have to leave anywhere to get that marketing. Yeah. And so one of the biggest pitfalls we're seeing is that because of that, people get caught in those cycles of credit card overspending or, much like we did, blowing through any type of savings or money because access to everything is so easy. It's so readily accessible.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest ones I've seen right now. So a lot of older folks might, say, well, you're being irresponsible with your money or something like that, but they're not really coming from a place of understanding where this new generation is living in, right? And especially for millennials, now we're big kids with money, right? And so we're not even talking about teenagers who are just scrolling TikTok shopping. We're talking about ourselves, right? We're like, oh, now I have kids and all of these cool gadgets for my kids or things that I didn't get to have as when I was a kid that I want for my family, and you can get it immediately. And so that's a big problem.
For sure.
I was going to say the exact same thing. And we are currently studying marketing for ads and Facebook ads and email lists and all this stuff. And my mind is blown.
Wow.
They can set things inside the coding where when you search on, because we know they're watching.
Right. Absolutely.
We know everyone's watching.
We say some product and it's going to be on our
Yes. So the targeted ads go, if I'm looking for a kite baby sleep suit and I see the ad on Instagram and I hover over it longer than normal, longer than just the scroll. Automatically I'm put into some category. And then if I click it, they know that I clicked it. And then it'll show even more. And then if I went to the website and shopped, it'll show it even more. And then if you exit and then come back, and that's why things keep showing up. They know you click the link. So now they're sending it. And when we used to get ads back in the day when we were growing up on TV or on the radio, you just turned it off. When you got out of the car, you turned the radio off. When you were done watching the TV, you just turned it off. Now our phones are literally on our bodies. All the time. They're in our pockets. We're scrolling all the time. Hey, your Apple Watch might even be giving you notifications about your Etsy sale or whatever. And we're getting email targets that are vibrating and telling us all the time that things are happening. So it goes, yes, social media starts it, but the new approach to marketing is it's psychological manipulation is what it is at the next level. It's kind of creepy.
That is scary. That is really scary, especially thinking of our kids growing up in that. So, I mean, you guys see it with people now. I feel like I'm not outside of it, but I'm a little bit on the outside of it where I'm not as, common on social media. And so I feel like though my kids are the generation that I'm going to see that.
I mean, they can embed something on your website to know that someone visited your website before they even saw the ad. And then now it shows
it's
them all the
triggering
time.
on there. That's crazy.
It's wild. Just wild.
That's so scary. Yeah, crazy. Yeah, I could see that being a big issue. You can't escape it.
Because you can't say no.
No.
When it's there all the time, it's the constant reminder of, okay, well, I said no yesterday. Well, I already waited a week.
Right.
Okay, well, fine.
I popped back up again, so maybe I'm supposed to order it.
People might not know this, but you can actually ignore those ads. There's a
what do you do?
option on Instagram and on Facebook. There's 3 buttons up in the top right-hand corner. You can click the button, and it says something like, don't show me this ad anymore, or ignore ad, and then you can say why it's irrelevant, and you can say, I don't want to see this anymore. So if you're really trying to get a hold of the impulse control, from the shopping specifically, or Instagram, or TikTok ads, TikTok shop, you can manipulate that, but you have to know that that's a thing, and a lot of people don't know.
Crazy. That's amazing. That's a good piece of information to share, though. Let's turn that stuff off. Or at least, a new one will pop up, but at least that one will be gone. I can stop seeing that purse.
Exactly.
I love that. So looking ahead, what are your goals and aspirations for Price of Avocado Toast, both with the financial coaching and the podcast?
Goals right now, we're growing. I'm really focusing on growing on the ground in Sonoma County. We've been so on social media for the last 4 years, which is amazing. Our podcast is global reach, which is super cool.
Amazing.
We have clients in like 35 states or something like that, and that's really amazing.
Wow.
But we left Sonoma County in 2021 because we couldn't afford to live here.
Yeah.
And we got our finances in order, fixed some stuff. We were able to move back, and the level of happiness we have just being in a place, it just feels so much better. So I'm so passionate now about helping people that live here to feel like they can feel comfortable to stay here.
I love that.
Because a lot of people are getting pushed out because things are very, very expensive.
For sure.
And I want to grow our business on the ground in Sonoma County with like networking with more people, meeting more people so then they can recommend people to us. But also just like overall, I think everyone deserves to feel good about where they live and then also not be stressing about the affordability of where they live. And that's hard because things are super expensive here.
Totally.
And yeah, we can't fix the price of it, but we can work on some of the other stuff.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah.
Beyond that, we're doing some cool stuff, building a more accessible like group coaching.
Nice.
We currently only do 1-to-1, which is, a little bit pricier.
Yeah.
And so a group coaching option just provides a little bit more accessibility for people. So we're pretty excited about that.
That's
We've been
awesome.
working on that for a couple months now. It'll probably go live sometime in September, which is pretty exciting. And then beyond that, just I think keep doing this as long as we can. We both get to be home with our 3 kids that are 4.5 and below. And so we recognize our time with them dramatically drops when they're all 3 in school.
Yeah.
And so if we can get time with them now before they get into school to really be the parents that we're hoping to be and to build those connections so that when they go to school, we still get to maximize the time in the evenings that we will get with them.
Yeah.
We're excited about that. So we want to continue to do this as long as possible so we can be home with the kids. And it's been a blessing that we've been able to do this. We talk all the time about how lucky we are because many families don't even get close to as much time as they get or as we get with our kids. And so we just feel remarkably blessed and privileged every single day that this is what we get to do.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, once those school age years and sports kick in, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
You're going to miss them.
Totally.
They've got their own little lives.
Yeah. And we're not, at some point we're not going to be the cool parents anymore, right?
I know, I'm still really cool.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. We've got somebody we can look up to. This is
cool
perfect.
too.
Good. That's our hope, We want our kids to be in middle school and still be like, oh, my parents are cool. Like, I'm cool like being around them. We don't want them to be like, okay, I'm done altogether. So, we're just hoping we can keep doing this as long as possible so we get that time with them.
I love that. That's so special. And it's very important, like, that you prioritized in that way, which is what you're teaching your clients is like, these are the things that are important to us. How do we make it work?
Yeah,
So
totally.
That's awesome. What do you love most about your job and the work you do? Besides being able to stay home with the kids too. That was really key.
I'm a naturally really nosy person. So it just like satisfies every need to just know things about people.
So on brand. That is so good.
I love it.
Yeah, and that's really, really satisfying. Then I don't have to be nosy with other things. I just get it in with,
get your
with
fix.
Work and we're good.
Yeah.
But
That's so awesome.
on a more serious note, like helping people with their money is great, but I really love helping people get to a point where they can feel confident about reproducing children. Because one of our biggest whys for wanting to get out of all of the debt that we had was that I was pregnant at the time of the pumpkin muffin argument.
Yep.
We knew we were having a kid. We were both teachers. We were not making much money.
Right.
And all of a sudden we're supposed to tack on an extra $1,200 for childcare. Like it just didn't feel it didn't feel feasible. And that was part of the reason why we ended up relocating out of the county.
Right.
And I always knew I wanted to have a handful of kids in a handful of years. But, like, that didn't seem like at all an option if we were going to have 3 kids in childcare. There was no way.
Yeah.
But getting our money in order made that doable for us.
Awesome.
Also changing, like, they're not in childcare because we made a huge pivot because we work from home. So there's a big thing there. But now helping my clients get to a point where they can afford, like, fertility treatments, adoptions, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Getting to a point where they already have one kid and they want to have another one and then feel good about it and not stress and in a panic, because that is the first thing. I am the first person.
Yeah.
People tell me they're pregnant before they tell anyone else because it's a financial
oh my gosh.
And I love that. The peace that comes with like, oh, we did this for a reason, and we get to grow our family and feel good. So that's an area I'm really, really passionate about.
That's awesome.
Yeah. For me, I would just say that, we get to be soundboards for people's best moments in their lives, right? Like, we've gotten so many calls and texts and Zoom meetings where somebody shares this massive change in their life that is going to, fundamentally take care of them for decades to come. And they want to share it with us. And they, give us some credit. And we're like, hey, like, you did the work. We just got to like be here and be a soundboard and hopefully a guide for them. But we've just gotten some of the greatest news for people all across the U.S. that we get to work with. And there's nothing more rewarding than that. Again, money is tied into so many different things. And so a lot of times good news comes from, having a higher income or getting some type of really cool bonus or tackling some really cool financial goal. And we get to be part of that good news. We get to hear that often. And so it is just this constant feedback of like, you're doing good work, you're doing good work, you're doing good work. And like the people pleaser in me really likes that.
For sure.
Yeah. And then I would say also beyond that, kind of the flip side, we've helped people through some really hard times in their life. And we've been able to kind of soften the blow of finances and just remind people, take your time to feel this emotionally, to grieve however you need to grieve, to be in this moment, because the finances actually don't have to be part of this because you've taken care of things.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's been really, really nice as well, just knowing that people are okay because of some of the help that we've given them. It's really rewarding work.
That's amazing.
And finance is so personal. Why people are wanting to get out of debt or get their finances in order will vary from person to person. But I have one client that I sat down with her for her consultation, and it was like red flag. She's in an abusive relationship. Like, oh no, we need to work together. This isn't great.
Like financially abusive or controlling?
Just all around not a great situation.
Got it.
And she got to a point where she left the relationship, moved across the country.
Wow.
Like, now she's married to someone else. And the financial part, she's like, I never thought I would be able to do this. Yeah. But being able to take that leap, to leave a relationship, to have the money to move, gives me goosebumps because that is so cool.
Yeah. For sure.
And to feel empowered with your money. And like, I'm not stuck in this situation. I'm not a victim of this situation. I am in control. It's hard to feel in control when finances are just like everything you think about and you feel like you're drowning. Yeah. And getting people to a point where they do feel like they're the one in control of their money and it's not their money in control of them is so cool.
Yeah, that is so awesome. Also, I love that you two both do this together because you can celebrate those wins for your clients like together. That's got to be such an exciting thing for you guys to be like, oh my gosh, can we help them? Like, that's you.
And it was really cool because Haley, started the business, so I wasn't part of this like confidentiality agreement. So like we'd be at the dinner table and she'd be like, my calls went really good, like people are doing really cool stuff, and I'd be like, awesome, like this is great, right? And now we can be like, hey, you've met my clients, I've met your clients, and we can have these conversations and actually be like, I know exactly what they're facing. Yeah, it's really cool. It's pretty fun.
So
that does make it a lot easier.
It was a good day. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. So what are 3 fun facts about each of you personally?
Non-finance related?
I'm going to say either. Yeah.
Totally random. I just went to the dentist, so I have one baby tooth still.
What?
I know. I'm like, is it ever going to fall out? They've been telling me my whole life.
No, really? Like, where is it?
It's right here.
It's still a baby tooth.
It's just like a tiny little...
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, you didn't know this?
I didn't know this.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't know.
What?
I had no clue.
I'm going to guess you told him.
They told me, they were like, don't be surprised if one of your kids had this. I guess it's hereditary.
It's probably, genetic.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Like one tiny baby tooth. So it's my baby tooth.
Amazing.
There you go.
Well, you've obviously taken very good care of it all these years.
Yeah.
So
probably.
I have a baby tooth. I'm hard of hearing.
Yes.
So I've got hearing aids in both ears. And what else about me? I never really ate avocado toast, like, before all of this. And that's one of the big questions you get. They're like, you must love avocado toast. And I'm like, it's all right. Like, I like guacamole. I'm not really, now I'll have it.
Yes.
It's good, but it's definitely not my go-to. I never order it when we're eating out for breakfast.
How funny. That is so funny.
And we have avocado swag to the
everywhere.
nines.
That's
Everyone
so
sends
awesome.
us things.
Yeah.
And so it's just funny because this was never a thing.
That's funny.
That's awesome.
I have an identical twin brother.
Amazing.
Yeah, and he's my best friend.
Does he live locally?
He does, yeah.
People mix you up?
All the time.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Oh,
funny.
yeah.
Okay.
And I'm a high school football coach. I coach
Awesome.
football at Annalee High School.
Awesome.
Where my twin brother is a teacher. And he coaches there as well. It's funny because like people will be like, Senor Brown. And I just kind of like wave and keep walking. And
Because I mean, you are too.
yeah, I'm like, okay, sure. What
funny.
would be, I have a bachelor's degree in criminology.
Oh, awesome.
I really wanted to go into
That's
juvenile
cool.
probation
Yeah.
when I was going through college, and I really, really loved learning about that. I, never ended up doing anything with it other than letting it catapult me to get my master's for teaching.
Yeah.
But, it's still really fascinating to me. I love learning about the law and different, kind of criminal aspects of things and stuff. It's really, really fascinating to me. It's really cool.
I love that. That's a good, major.
Yeah, I always forget, that's
Yeah.
what I did. But I was
Yeah.
talking about it yesterday. I was like, I actually really enjoyed going to school.
That's really, you never
Yeah.
know, your path may take you back there at some
Yeah.
point. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to that's really helped you in your career?
Can you say that one more time?
Is there anyone that's really helped you with your career that you'd like to give a shout out to?
I can go first if you want.
Yeah, you go first.
Cool. I want to shout out our friend David Gorley. He was a former math teacher turned financial coach as well.
Oh,
And he
wow.
started a podcast right about the same time that we did. And we just connected on social media and became really good friends.
Wow.
And he's now turned CFP, so financial planner, and certified student loan professional.
Amazing.
And so he's now our planner and professional with our student loans. And we've just built a really good working relationship together. He's helped our family tremendously with our wealth journey and navigating student loans and getting just tons of help with that. And he's just been such a supporter from the beginning. It's felt like he's always believed in what we've been doing, whether it's the podcast or Haley starting the business or me leaving education to join her. It's been really cool having him on our team, of people supporting us. So
That's
give him a
awesome.
shout. Yeah.
That's
He also has helped dozens of my clients.
Yeah.
Has he
Oh,
helped your
great.
clients?
Like a referral.
He's helped a couple.
He's
yeah.
helped so many people
Yeah.
that we've sent to him get hundreds of thousands of dollars of their student loans forgiven with the PSLF Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program.
Wow.
So that he's just doing
I had
the
a
work.
client that was able to get the forgiveness. That's
It's
amazing.
wild when
Yeah.
somebody's like, "Hey, $60,000 of
Yeah.
loans were forgiven." Yeah.
That's amazing.
He's an OG too.
Yeah.
He's been
Wow.
with us since the beginning. My person would be our podcast editor, Garrett, and his
Oh, yeah.
wife, Emily.
Yes.
They have ride or die been Toasties since day one.
I love that.
Like when I think of who would take
Yeah.
a bullet for the Toasties, them.
Yeah.
I mean, not
Right through
really.
the avocado.
Yeah.
The biggest supporters.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so awesome.
And we hired him almost a year and a half into doing our podcast, and he's been our editor since then.
Cool.
And
Yeah.
I credit so much of our growth to him. They tell everyone about us.
Wow.
They just they've believed in
Yeah.
it since the beginning. Before we even saw what it
Yeah.
was, they were like,
Yeah.
this is going to be a thing.
Wow.
And it's so cool to look back. I'm like, wait,
Wow.
what did you see in this?
Yeah.
So
This
cool.
little thing.
I should say they're also Haley's college friends, and they've had
Yeah.
a lot of nights at Mi Ranchito locally together. So I'm sure there's some passion behind that beyond just the podcasting.
100%.
Gives them some love.
Some camaraderie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No,
It's so funny.
they're
Yeah,
it's great.
just great humans.
But the power of having people that believe in what you're doing is
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Well, it motivates you and catapults you to keep
Yes.
going.
Yeah.
and when everyone else was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Family,
Yeah.
friends,
Yeah.
they were clueless to what we were doing.
Totally.
David and Garrett and Emily were
They
like,
understood it.
oh, we get it.
Yeah.
It might not make sense quite yet, but we get this.
I love that.
And that's huge.
I love that. I thought of one more fun fact for you, by the way. We have matching tattoos.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. So awesome.
Not to backtrack too much, but I was watching with so for anybody on YouTube.
Literally.
that's in this, we have different
Same
wedding
font.
dates on them because we
Yeah.
married different people on different days, but they're matching otherwise. And no, it was not intentional.
It's so awesome.
We just have discovered this about ourselves. It's so funny.
So rad.
So, before we sign off, where can my listeners find you if they're interested in listening to the podcast, using your coaching services, all of the above?
We are pretty much across the board on the internet at Price of Avocado Toast. So our website is priceofavocadotoast.com. And all of the social media is Price of Avocado Toast. Our podcast is Price of Avocado Toast. We try to simplify it.
I
Yeah.
like that.
And that's where we're at. We hang out mostly on Instagram, but we're also on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Threads. Maybe YouTube.
Now you will
Old
be.
episodes we have
Okay.
on YouTube. old. They're like 3 years old, but if you want to binge, they're there.
I love that.
And our podcast is available anywhere where you're listening to this podcast today.
And I'm going to go listen to the cult episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming in today. It was so great to have you guys. So.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's been fun.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for listening.
If you like what you hear, please be sure to like and subscribe, learn more about Sonoma County and all that we have to offer here.